She knew she needed to return to the land of the living to fulfill her promise. An idea began to form in her mind, a risky and desperate idea. Amora's eyes locked onto the lifeless body of the young man, her heart racing with resolve. With a deep breath, she thrust her spirit into him. In an explosive burst of light, his body jolted awake, gasping for air. Amora's soul now pulsed with his heartbeat, her mission clear. She was alive again, but in a body of a man. Amora woke up in a strange place, feeling confused. She looked around and saw people staring at her in surprise. She realized she was in a man's body, and everything felt different. As she stood up, the people around her gasped in shock. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Feeling scared and out of place, Amora decided to run. She didn't know where she was going. She just wanted to get away from the crowd. "Wait, stop," the people called after her, but Amora kept running, her heart racing. She thought about Moko and their promise to each other. She knew she had to find him. The villagers watched as the young man they thought was dead suddenly came to life and ran away. They chased after her, shouting questions and trying to understand what had happened. Amora finally reached the edge of the village, where the trees provided some cover. She slowed down, panting heavily as she caught her breath. She had managed to shake off the people who had been chasing her. Standing there, she looked back at the village, her chest heaving with exhaustion. The panic and adrenaline had subsided, but now she faced a new challenge, trying to get used to her new body. The limbs felt heavy and unfamiliar, and every step felt awkward. Amora, exhausted from her escape and the struggle to adjust to her new body, found a quiet corner in the woods. She was far enough from the village that she felt relatively safe. The cool night air and the gentle rustling of leaves created a calming atmosphere. As the early morning light began to creep through the trees, Moko was the primary reason she had gone through this incredible transformation, and her resolve to find him was stronger than ever. As Amora stood up, eager to start her journey, an urgent need to urinate suddenly hit her. She bent down, only to freeze in shock as she realized that her new body had male genitalia. Her eyes widened, and she let out a high-pitched scream that echoed through the quiet forest. "Oh no, what is this?" she cried out, her voice trembling with a mix of panic and disbelief. She glanced around frantically, as if expecting someone to pop out and explain this bizarre turn of events. In an attempt to adjust, she tentatively reached down, trying to manage the situation. Her fingers trembled as she handled the new anatomy. As she did, her cheeks flushed with both shyness and humor. She kept her gaze fixed on the ground, as if trying to ignore the strange new experience. After finally managing to deal with her new, confusing anatomy, Amora took a deep breath, her heart pounding with a mixture of urgency and excitement. She glanced around to make sure no one was watching and then set off towards the castle, where Moko was. Amora, now in the body of a man, finally reached the grand castle where she hoped to find Moko. Her heart raced with excitement and urgency as she approached, envisioning the moment she would reunite with her love. "Halt!" one of the guards commanded, his tone firm but not unkind. "State your name and the purpose of your visit." Amora's breath caught in her throat. The sudden responsibility of answering them hit her hard. She hesitated, her mind racing as she tried to form a coherent response. Her voice wavered, her confidence slipping away. She suddenly recalled that the only people allowed into the castle without much question were the farmers who worked for her father. Her eyes widened in realization, and she stammered, "I'm one of the farmers." The guard's brow furrowed slightly, but without further hesitation, he motioned to the other guards. "Let him through," he ordered. Amora's heart leapt with relief as the gates creaked open, allowing her to pass. As she slipped past the busy servants and wondering guards, she used her familiarity with the castle's layout to her advantage. She silently made her way towards the section where Moko was rumored to be held captive. Her heart pounded with every step, the urgency of her mission driving her forward. Finally, after what felt like an eternity of sneaking and dodging, she reached a door marked with a symbol she recognized. It was an entrance to the cells where prisoners were kept. As Amora approached the cell, her heart sank. Moko was lying on the ground, his body bruised and battered. The sight of him in such a pitiful state made her gasp in horror. He looked gaunt and weak, his clothes tattered and dirty. It was clear he hadn't had food or water for days, and the sight of him made her drop a tear. "Moko," she called out, her voice trembling with both hope and desperation. She knelt beside him, reaching out to touch his shoulder. Moko, hearing his name, he tried to push himself up, but his strength failed him, and he slumped back to the ground. Amora's heart ached at his condition. She gently placed a hand on his cheek, her eyes full of empathy and resolve. "I'm here now. I am going to get you out of this place. I won't leave you here." Moko shifted away slightly, his brow furrowing in confusion and unease. Despite his weakened state, he tried to pull back from her touch, his voice trembling with uncertainty. "Who are you?" Moko asked weakly, his eyes filled with pain and confusion. "And why are you touching me like this? Please stop." Amora's heart ached as she saw the pain and confusion in Moko's eyes. She moved closer, hoping to comfort him and explain who she was. "Moko, it's me." Before she could finish, Moko's fear overwhelmed him. His voice, though weak, rang out loudly, "Get away from me." "Moko, it's me, please my love, I'm here to help." She tried to hug him, her arms trembling. "Please, let me help you." But Moko, already in pain and discomfort, recoiled at her touch. His face twisted in confusion and disgust at the way a man's body was embracing him so intimately. "Please, get away from me," he shouted, his voice filled with fear and discomfort. The shout echoed through the dungeon, its intensity drawing the attention of the nearby guards. Panic surged through Amora as she realized the danger in if caught. With a heavy heart and tears still streaming down her face, Amora dashed through the labyrinthine corridors of the castle. Her mind raced, trying to find a way to avoid the approaching guards. The urgency of her situation only deepened her heartbreak. She had come so close to reuniting with her love Moko, only to be rejected and forced to flee. As Amora made her way out of the castle, her heart heavy with heartbreak, she stumbled upon Kumi, a young, beautiful girl who was walking nearby. Kumi's eyes widened with recognition and a mixture of surprise and relief as she saw Amora. Without hesitation, Kumi rushed forward, her face glowing with genuine affection. She pressed a tender kiss to Amora's cheek and enveloped her in a deep, heartfelt hug. The warmth and love in Kumi's embrace were unexpected. As Kumi held Amora close, her voice trembled with emotion. "Oh, my love," she whispered, her tone a mix of relief and desperation. "Thanks be to the gods. I was informed of your passing, but when I made my way to your house, I heard you had come back to life and ran off. I can't believe what my life would become without you, Sammy. Amora was taken aback by Kumi's heartfelt embrace and words. As she listened to Kumi speak, it dawned on her that this person must be familiar with her new body. The name Sammy, she now realized, is the name of the owner of her newfound body. Amora, feeling both overwhelmed and slightly uncomfortable by Kumi's tight embrace, gently but firmly broke free. The intimate closeness, combined with her own confusion about her new body, made her feel uneasy. Kumi's expression softened with concern as she looked at Amora. Are you alright? Why did you run away? The whole village has been searching for you, she asked gently. Please, follow me back home. As Kumi spoke with concern and kindness, Amora found herself unable to respond, her mind racing with confusion. As night fell and Kumi fell into a peaceful sleep, Amora lay awake beside her. She couldn't shake the image of Moko, beaten and exhausted, or the pain in his eyes as he rejected her. The pain of being turned away by the one she had gone through so much to return to weighed heavily on her heart. She felt a profound sense of helplessness, knowing she had to find a way to rescue him but unsure how to proceed. As Amora lay in bed, lost in her troubled thoughts, Kumi reached out, seeking to cuddle up to her in the quiet night. Amora's discomfort grew. She couldn't shake the unease of being held in such an intimate way. Then that morning, as the sun rose higher in the sky, as Amora walked through the village streets, she was lost in her thoughts. Another young girl approached her, her face lighting up with recognition and joy. Amora's heart skipped a beat, the familiarity of the situation the same as Kumi. Sammy, where have you been? The girl asked, her voice filled with a mix of relief and longing. I've missed you so much. You can't just disappear like that. Amora felt a pang of confusion. She didn't know this girl, but it was clear that Sammy, the owner of her new body, meant a lot to her. The girl pulled back, looking into Amora's eyes with a determined expression. You should leave Kumi and Olita and come be with only me. At this point, it dawned on Amora that Sammy, the owner of the body she was borrowing, was a Casanova. As the girl's words echoed in her mind, she realized that Sammy had been involved with multiple women in the village. She ran from the girl. With her new resolve to navigate the situation with caution, Amora decided to head straight back to the castle. Her goal was clear. She needed to convince Moko that she was truly Amora and not just a stranger or a figment of his imagination. As Amora approached Moko, she decided to approach the situation with even greater care. Please, I need you to hear me out. I'm Amora, she said softly, her voice trembling with both urgency and empathy. As Amora spoke, Moko's emotions were a turbulent mix of grief and anger. The pain of losing his beloved Amora, compounded by his dire situation, had left him raw and vulnerable. When Amora gently placed her hand on his shoulder, Moko's eyes flared with sudden fury. His grief-stricken mind could barely process her words, and he felt overwhelmed by the sense of mockery. In a sudden, violent outburst, Moko tried to strike out at Amora. His movements were fueled by a mix of pain and rage, but weakened by his imprisonment. Don't you dare mock me! Moko shouted, his voice filled with a raw, aching anger. Moko, please, Amora pleaded, her voice trembling. I'm not here to mock you. Remember, she said softly, her voice steady despite the emotional turmoil, we made a blood covenant to be together forever.